Madam, namaskar.
Recording was started. Chat messages now.
Sir, madam, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Alert. Live caption with. Employee, your camera is on.
ଆପଣ
Employee,
ଫୋନ
your
କରିଥିଲେ?
camera.
Ma'am,
Do not imagine left parent outside into right there. Join.
you can start your class, ma'am. Students, I request all of you kindly join the class because otherwise teacher will not motivated. Because teachers wants to teach, she is putting 2 hours effort and behind the screen is studying 8 hours. So if she is putting so much of labor, so kindly listen to ma'am. Because ma'am is an excellent teacher. You will not find this kind of, teaching quality. So it's a requesting to all of you, the whatever teacher we are giving to you, all are best teacher. So my sincere request to all of you, tell your friends if you know anybody.
So good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So in the last class we had discussed about how the state came into being, how political scientists defined the state, and what is the liberal perspective of the state. Today we will discuss about the Marxist perspective of the state, because as we see, we have many liberal democracies and we have also democracies which believe in Marxism. We today, political scientists say that we are interacting with the neoliberal state. So we will find out what is this neoliberal state. But first we will try to know what is Marxist perspective of state and what is the difference between liberal perspective of state and Marxist perspective of state. Now let me tell you, Marxist perspective of state owes its origin to a philosopher named as Karl Marx, who is a German philosopher of 19th century. In fact, he lived all through the 19th century till 1883. Karl Marx was very much disillusioned with the industrial society. For him, the only the industrial society appeared as if it is very very exploitative in intention, in nature. So Karl Marx tried to frame whatever he saw in the frame of a new methodology of social science, by applying which we will be able to understand social change, and by applying the his method of scientific socialism, or you can say historical materialism, he interpreted the social processes into 6 phases. First phase is primitive communism. 6 phases, 6 social processes, or you can say 6 types of societies, not existing in one era but existing in subsequent eras. One is the primitive communism, which is a classless society where human beings had very little knowledge of technology, where human beings were moving here and there like nomads, never felt like having a political organization like state. So this is the society of primitive communism. People in this society never had any property rights, never had the feeling of mine and thine. So the society was not divided into classes. Class means an economic group having the similar relationship to means of production. Means of production means the products, the implements of production that you own. So the people who had similar relationship to means of production, that means they own something and they did not own something. In that sense, they were called as uh, rich persons or poor persons. Such a society was not there in primitive communism. So you can call it as a pre-political society. In the last class, we had discussed about state of nature. So we can use the word of the liberalists or the social contractualist state of nature to primitive communism. But however, nowhere Marx has said that primitive communism was in a very state of flux. He was not saying so. People were happy. People were uh, engaged in production. There was equality. There was no classes. This was the primitive. This was the scenario in primitive communism. It is not like the Hobbesian state of nature where there was much conflict. It is not like John Locke's state of nature where there was dispute because of lack of interpreter of law. It was not like Rousseau's state of nature where people quarrel among themselves to acquire property. Primitive communism is a type of society, you can say. It's not a political society, rather it is a society where you find that the people are equal to each other. They have the similar relationship with means of production. That means they all owned all means of production. There were no classes because people did not uh, own much, or did not own more, or did not own less. I hope you understand. There was no unequal access to whatever property was available. This was the scenario in primitive communism. Gradually, what happened, when one group of people acquire the knowledge of technology, whatever technology you can say, maybe the art of knowledge of fire, maybe the knowledge of agriculture, whatever it is. So that knowledge, you can call it as technical knowledge. This technical knowledge encourage them to acquire more property, and they became a dominant group because of having access to this knowledge, and they started owning means of production. So unequal society developed. So since unequal society developed, so this unequal society created classes in society. And since you have classes in society, so Marx says that there comes the state into picture, because the dominant class creates the state for its support. To make it more clearer, I let me tell you one thing. Karl Marx goes to the root of human life. Goes to the root of human life. First is Karl Marx says that men must eat to live. For this, men must gather food or produce food. You know how the men will eat. The men must gather food or produce food. Men must, while producing food, men interact with nature. Means whatever because men is very wise, men are very wise, and men have intellect, men have reason. So whatever knowledge they have, they use that knowledge to extract certain things from the nature and use those things in production. May it be the stone which was used to produce fire. May it be the knowledge of agriculture which was used to produce food grains, whatever it is. You know, that small, small things also is called as means of production. Those things helped in producing food grains which men wanted to eat. So first thing, see, man enters into relationship with nature, and when man interacts with nature, what is produced? A type of technology is produced, and that technology is different from different stages of history. And Marx says that this technology is, you know, there is always progress. There is no looking backward. There is no going backward. Always there is a forward movement. So if today men had the knowledge of that stone which was used to produce fire, tomorrow men had the knowledge of matchbox to produce fire. Day after tomorrow, men had the knowledge of cooking gas to produce fire. So always there is a progress. Never think that there is, there is no question of going back. That is what Karl Marx said. So always society is changing. There is change in the nature. There is change in the society, and always this change is a positive change, adds to the knowledge of human beings. Okay? So, this change, which created technology due to the interaction of human beings with nature, that also created relations of production, because production is a social process. Remember, collectively we produce. Men in isolation finds it difficulty to produce, so we come together to produce certain things. So that means men production is a social process. By coming together, men produce more than by being alone. So individual produces less than a group. So therefore, production is a social process. So what you find is that why classes came into being? Why inequality came into being? This is where the important thing happens. See, means of production and relations of production taken together is called as mode of production. Remember, means of production and relations of production taken together is called as mode of production. Karl Marx says that means of production and relations of production do not change simultaneously. Means of production changes in a faster rate than relation changes in the relations of production. So what happens is that the means of production, the people, the knowledge of the people for producing things becomes more complex than the relations of production. One example I will give you, very simple, that we have acquired knowledge. Take for example, women have acquired knowledge, women have come out, women have entered into the workspace. Women are
And Goldie, your
earning
microphone is on.
income.
Goldie,
uh,
your camera is
they
on.
are supplementing the
Goldie, your
family income,
Madam, just
but
a minute.
the relations of
Madam,
production required to give them independence, required to give them space, is not present in a true sense of the term.
Goldie, your
So there
microphone.
is a conflict within the family.
so no, madam.
Yes.
Madam, I am just requesting to the students. It's request from Regional Center of Bhubaneswar. We are organizing class for you. You are taking lot of pain. So I request all of you to kindly join the class every day because you will not send SMS to you every day. Otherwise, teachers are not ready to take class. ମୋର ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କୁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କାଇଣ୍ଡଲି କ୍ଲାସରେ ଜଏନ୍ କରନ୍ତୁ ନହେଲେ ଆମେ କ୍ଲାସ ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦେବୁ କାହିଁକିନା ମୋତେ ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ କାଲି ସିନସିୟରଲି କହିଲେ ଯେ ସାର୍ ମୋ କ୍ଲାସ ନେଇପାରିବିନି
ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ ମାନେ
You have
ଫାଇନାଲି
Windows,
ଏଇ ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଜଣେ ଥିଲେ ଯିଏ କି ହୁ ଇଜ
ସାର୍
ନୋନ୍ ଟୁ
ଗୋଟେ
ମି।
ଅଧେ ପିଲାରେ ନା ଟିଚରକୁ କାହିଁକିନା 2 ଘଣ୍ଟା ଗୋଟେ ଟିଚର ପଢେଇବ and they are doing so much of labor for you. So kindly join for class. ଆଉ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ତ ଆମେ everyday SMS ପଠେଇବୁନୁ because you know we had given the schedule. So kindly join so that teacher will motivate. Otherwise, whom the teacher is going to teach? So ମୋର ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ଅନୁରୋଧ ଟିକେ join କରନ୍ତୁ. Fine. And maybe madam is not going to take class on 18th. So instead of 18, ଆମେ 25th Sunday ରେ madam ର class ଟାକୁ ରଖିବୁ 11 ରୁ 1. I will send a mail to you. So 18 class ହବନି instead of 18, 25th ରେ 11 ରୁ 1 madam ର class ଟା ହବ. Continue ma'am.
Okay, okay.
alert.
So I hope you have understood the natural process by in which men are engaged, means of production. That means men are interacting with nature, and whatever implements they are getting, with that they are trying to produce things for their living, and in the process they also interact with fellow human beings to make their production more faster, and this is called as relations of production. But the difference between means of product in the nature of means of production and relations of production is that the knowledge of human beings, since men are wiser enough, the knowledge of human beings develop in a faster rate than the relations of production. As I told you, today in the society, women have become more, women are educated, women are in the workspace, but the relations of production, which will allow women to have a convenient life, comfortable living, is not available in the society because those conservative mindset of women's place in a household has not changed. So this is what Karl Marx in his books have explained similar different situations, that means of production, which is technology, develops in a faster rate than the relations of production. So what happens? The relations of production becomes creates obstacles for means of production, and in the process what we find is that some people have more and some people have more access to means of production, and some people have less access to means of production. So in the process, we have classes in society. So since this class formation is not on equal terms, so there is a conflict of interest among classes. The classes which own the means of production want to appropriate more surplus. The class which do not own the means of production is deprived of the surplus. Only thing that every individual owns, according to Karl Marx, only thing that every individual owns is labor power. ମାନେ ଆମର କାମ କରିବାର ଶକ୍ତି. So we all, have that labor power. And by selling that labor power, we are earning money. Like, I am teaching now. This is also one type of labor power. So this labor power makes us, makes us earn our livelihood. But one group gradually do not exercise that labor power. They have more access to means of production, and they start exploiting those who have this labor power. So classes are created in the second stage. The first stage is primitive communism, where people never knew about appropriating the surplus, accumulating property. This happens in the second phase of society, that is the slave society, where there is emergence of private property. And since there is emergence of private property, classes also originated. Those who were having the similar economic status formed a class because they also had similar relations of production. The class which owns the means of production was called as bourgeois, and the class which owned only labor power was called as proletariat. That means ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ସମ୍ପତ୍ତି ଥିଲା ସେମାନେ they were called as bourgeois, and those who had no property but only labor power, they were uh, earning whatever they can by using their labor power, they were called as proletariat. So this is the second phase of society, where the bourgeois was named as master and the proletariat was named as slave. After that, the next phase of social society comes, and in the third phase of society, we have feudalism or feudalistic society, where the land is owned by the landlord, and the tenants who are actually cultivating the land is not getting the fruits of labor. The fruits of labor are appropriated by the landlord. So this is where again inequality comes, and the landlord belongs to one class, and the tenants who invest their labor power but do not get profit is the proletariat. You can say they are the tenant. There is unequal relationship between the jamindar or the landlord and the tenant. This is the scenario in feudal society. You can say in a agricultural society. Feudal society or a slave society is an agricultural society. Then comes a society where we have industries, industrialized society. So that is capitalism, the fourth stage of uh, the the fourth stage of you find the fourth stage of society, where you have capital in the hands of few, and you have capital in the hands of few, and you have uh, labor power in the hands of majority. So those who have only labor power, they are called as proletariats, and those who have capital, they are called as bourgeois. So during this period, what you find is that there is dictatorship of the minority over the majority. In previous classes, there was dictatorship of the minority over the minority, but in capitalistic class, since the poor has become more poorer and the rich have become more richer, so there is dictatorship of the minority, that is the rich class, over dictatorship of the majority, that is the workers. That means the industrialists are the capitalist class, they own the means of production, others are just workers, they do not own the means of production, they only get uh, subsistence wages for their living. So what you do not try to understand Marxism in the context of 21st century. You try to understand Marxism in the context of 19th century, when there were no labor laws, when there were no human rights, when there were no mass based public policies. Only the propertied class had right to vote. This was the scenario in the world in 19th century, and Karl Marx was developing his philosophy in such a society. So if you try to understand or try to relate Marxism to 21st century, where we have a better state, where we have a state which is there also rich is appropriating more money, like the Adanis and Ambanis, they have more wealth, but we have a wider middle class like us, who are neither rich nor poor, but we have a comfortable living. At that period of time, there was no such middle class. The middle class was very narrow, was having a very narrow base in 19th century. Either you are rich or you are poor. You never had such opportunities to be in the middle class and having a comfortable living. Today, middle class can be divided into three parts: higher middle class, and lower middle class. Like we who belong to the class 1 category, so to say, we are middle class, and those who are below us, like the class 3 employees or the class 4th employees, they will be included in the lower middle class category. So uh, Marx was saying that all through the society there is class conflict and class struggle. Classes do not love each other, they are at conflict with each other, they are always at struggle with each other. And this struggle reaches the climax when there is dictatorship of the majority over the minority. So the next stage of society is dictatorship of the proletariat through a revolution. You can call it as the French Revolution, you can call it as the Russian Revolution, where the state smashed the capitalistic society, smashed the capitalists, and created a state of the proletariats. The first such state was created in 1920s, after the October Revolution in Russia, and it was named as Soviet Socialist Republic. The second such state was created wa- was the Chinese Republic, where you find that there is dictatorship of the proletariat, dictatorship of the majority over the minority. That means those who are rich, they do not have political power now. Those who are poor, those who belong to the common mass, they have the political power. But let us go back to Marx. Marx says gives us another concept. Now, what is this means of production or mode of production? This means of production or mode of production is the substructure, the foundation of society. Political structure, religious structure, cultural structure, social structure, everything is the superstructure. The way we have the economic organization we have, accordingly the political organization is created. That means in slave society, we what we find, the state accepted slavery system as justified. A political philosopher like Aristotle, who is the father of political science, he also defended slavery as justified in his book Politics. Slavery was also justified many European and American societies. Even in United States of America, slavery was justified. It was abolished during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. So what do you find? The substructure, that is the way we have the economic organization, that class creates the political, religious, social, everything as to suit its own needs. So, what you find in feudal society, women were not allowed to have education because we had a joint family system. Why? Because if the property is kept, in a collectively, then it is easy to produce things, and women were confined to the house because the society can get the cheap labor of women to process the food grains. So women were also engaged in agriculture, but being within the home. So their right to education was never justified or promoted. What do you find in capitalistic society? It is an industrial society. You require more labor who and you require them to come out of the house. So they defended women's rights to education, and that is how women got the chance to have education, and women came out of the four walls of the house to enter into the job market or to the public space. So this is what Marx is trying to say, that state, the laws, the religion, social structure. Today, we since people migrated from one place to another in search of livelihood. So what you find is that we do not now prefer a joint family. Now we prefer a nuclear family, and our mindset is also like that. The family where father, mother, children, and अतिवासी हेले grandparents. So they constitute the family. There is no question of extended family. It is because the economic base, that is capitalism, prefers a nuclear family because the family is moving in search of livelihood. So this is what Karl Marx wanted to say, that state is the result of the economic organization as well as many such social processes that were existing in society, and state made the laws to suit the needs of the then society. So what you find here, there is a no Karl Marx for the first time clearly established a relationship between society, state, and administration, or you can say public law. The economic processes in the society or the classes in the society created the state. That means the rich people who own the means of production, they created the state, and they also were the policymakers who also uh, developed rules and regulations for the religious institutions, for cultural institutions, for educational institutions, for for also economic organization. So see, in a society, just to try to relate, long back, I think in 1960s, girls were not allowed to have engineering education. Girls were also not allowed to have allowed any space in the army. Today we are allowing that. Okay, so Marxism, so to say, is a social, economic, and political philosophy that analyzes the impact of the ruling class on the laborers, leading to uneven distribution of wealth and privileges in society. Remember, I'm using two words: uneven distribution of wealth and privileges in the society. It creates an unequal society. It stimulates the workers who are in majority to protest against injustice. Now, the state is there, which is a class institution. Why it is a class institution? Because many many times, almost all times, almost always, state sides with the. It is observed that state is sided with the rich class, not with the workers. Or even if any benefit is given, that is given in bits and pieces, but not in a better way. So this is called this is due to the result of dictatorship of the minority. So industrially the state in a capitalistic mode of production is taking a capitalist form, not because particular individuals are in powerful position, but because the state produces large capitalist structure. So see, the state, produces large capitalist structure. That means the state is promoting the development of the rich class. So that is how the state is considered as a class institution. Now the next seminal concept of Karl Marx is class struggle. These classes, they are at no, they do not match with each other. They are at conflict always because their interests differ. So since the class interests differ, they and this class interests are they are not parallel class interests, so they are at conflict with each other. So all societies are societies of class struggle. There is always a struggle among the classes. And how is it that after capitalism, and equal egalitarian society will come? It is because the class in itself will convert into class for itself. So what is this class in itself? A category of people having a common relation to the means of production. That is class in itself. They do not have that consciousness that we are deprived, we are exploited. There is no unity among all these laboring classes. There is no unity among all these laboring classes, you know. So, what you find is that these laboring classes, they became, because of the activities of the capitalists, because the capitalist appropriate surplus, they became poorer and poorer, and there is pauperization of classes. So many classes in society convert into two classes, the bourgeois and the proletariat, or the rich and the poor. So, since they become poorer and poorer, they develop some sort of consciousness that we are exploited, we are marginalized. So, they come together and they raise their voice collectively against the state. There come they then at this point of time, the class in itself converts into class for itself. So, what happens? There is revolution. There will be change in the society. The weak or the laboring class will capture power, political power, and will destroy the capitalists. That is what happened in Soviet Union and in China. So the dictatorship of the minority is converted into dictatorship of the majority, that is dictatorship of the proletariat. At this stage, state will continue to exist because it state will exist because state has coercive authority. So state will exist to destroy all symbols of capitalism. So therefore, during the fifth stage, state will exist. But after that comes the sixth stage, the classless, stateless society, that is communism. Or you can say socialism. So sixth stage is state communism. Fifth stage is state communism, and sixth stage is a stateless society because the state will also not be there. State will wither away. So this is what Karl Marx visualizes, and you find such type of understanding, and it is called therefore the Marxist perspective of the state. So in a socialistic society, everybody will get each according to their need, and everybody will contribute each according to their from each according to their ability, and to each according to their need. Everybody will contribute to society according to their ability, and everybody will get from society according to their need. There will be no inequality. Soviet Union in the beginning never had the right to property. All property was owned by the state. People never had right to property. Only they were allowed to save something around 50 rubles. So that was the communistic state in Soviet Union, which was established by Vladimir Isaac Lenin, the hero of the Russian Revolution. Now, why is it called a different state? Marx believes that if you have a stateless society, if you have a classless society, people can have substantive rights because the rich will not be there to take away your rights, or the rich will not be there to marginalize your rights, to deprive you of your rights. Okay. So this is the Marxist perspective of state. So if we apply the, remember, this Marxist perspective of state has many variants. Different authors in different countries have expressed uh, their desire to um in different countries we have different variants of Marxist perspective of state. But however, in a generalized sense, these are the things which I told you, that state is a class institution. The laws that we have, the social structure that we have, the religious structure, institution that we have, all these are meant to support the rich and not to support the poor. So, what you find is that in the present society, everything is available in pen and paper, but in a substantive sense, those rights are not available to individuals. So, why it is not available to individuals? Because the state is not bothered to give those rights to those who, who to whom it actually belongs. The state is not bothered. Tell, for example, Forest Right Act. It is not implemented properly, the Marxists would say. State, for example, the Land Acquisition and Resettlement and Rehabilitation Act. It is because the state is not bothered for the well-being of the poor. State is appropriating mines. State is appropriating the forest resources. The Marxist would say that state is, in the hands of the rich. Therefore, the state is allowing the rich to take away the natural resources which belong to the people. The fight between the state and the people is interpreted as the fight between the rich and the poor. We had this Niyamgiri Andolan, where Niyamgiri movement, where the tribals accused the state that the state is conniving with the capitalists and trying to take away our resources. So they decided that they will not allow the state to uh, to take away their Niyamgiri Hill. That is why the movement was that, and those people, they won in the Supreme Court. Now, many a times Even the judiciary is accused of siding with the rich and not with the poor. So, this is the Marxist interpretation of a state. You know, the if 93% of the workers are in the unorganized sector, then we should regularize the unorganized sector, but we do not do. And the approach of the state, the mentality of the state was exposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. How can the state declare the severest of lockdown when the state knew it very well that so many people are engaged in the unorganized sector and migrant workers in India? It is because the in the minds of the rulers, the no, the people who are the common masses, the laborers, the workers, they are not in the heart of the rulers. That is why they committed such mistake. They could have declared the lockdown. They could have said that after 7 days, severest lockdown will happen. So if you come back to your house, you may come back. But that did not happen. Overnight, the Indian state declared the severest of lockdown. It was criticized left and right. Then immediately the first stage people tolerated the state. Again, when the second phase of lockdown started, people did not obey the state. They started defying the state. They rejected the state order. They did not they started working miles and mile, defying the state order of lockdown. So this is how the Marxists interpret the state, the approach of the state. So this is the Marxist perspective of the state. Now we will come to the neoliberal perspective. Before that, let me tell you one thing. One minute, I'll tell you. See in chapter 2, that is, I mean, unit 2, where we have the relationship among the state, society, and public administration. There in chapter 2, they have I told you about this, you know, the relationship between state, society, and public administration as Marx interprets, or the way the liberals interpret. Now, let me tell you the distinction between the liberal perspective of the state and the Marxist perspective of the state. For the liberals, the state is autonomous. People have created the state for their better living. Aristotle long back said that state originated in the bare needs of life, that is, production and reproduction. What Marx said was also reflected in Aristotle. Marx said men must eat to live. And see, the production process state has originated from the production process. Aristotle also said so. State originated in the bare needs of production and reproduction. That means men and women came together to have a social life, and they produced together, and also when they started living together they wanted to multiply their race. So state originated in the bare needs of production and reproduction. All these are the basic needs of human beings, the desire and the desire for food. So that is there. So state originated in the bare needs of life and continues to exist for the sake of good life. So liberalists say that state is autonomous. State is a ideal institution. Human beings contractually said that human beings have created the state. Human beings created the state for a better living, for good life. So the state is a divine organization, you can say, or a better organization, you can say, or the reflection of the human knowledge, you can say. You know, it is an autonomous organization, not polluted the way Marxists see it. This is the difference between liberal perspective and Marxist perspective of the state. Now, the state has been created to protect people's rights, that is, right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. So, therefore, in such a state, what is the type of government that they are having? That is democracy. Marxists say that the democracy that the liberalist is saying, actually, that is not in true sense of the term democracy. That is democracy in disguise. That means, actually, in the name of ballot papers, in the name of democracy, the rich regularize their rule over the poor. That happens in a state. This is what the Marxists say. But the liberalists say that it is a very, very rational process, because people give their consent to form the government. So that is the liberal democratic state. So why do you say that state is a polluted organization or state is a exploitative organization? Here people have given their consent to form the government. Marxists say that Marxists accuse the liberalists of hiding the truth from the common man, always. Do not expressing the truth before the people. Rather, you tell them, you try to always subdue the truth. That means you give them bits and pieces and make them, keep them poor for time, all time to come. ମାନେ ଏମିତି କୌଣସି ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ହଉନି ଯୋଉ ଫଳରେ କି there will be enhancement in the capability of the poor to grow, to have more and more riches. That is what the Marxists say. Now, this is the relationship between society and state, and this is what Max Weber. I told you Weber was a great critique of Karl Marx. Max Weber also talked about the relationship between state, society, and public administration. Marx said, Protestant ethics facilitated the growth of capitalism. Karl Marx says that economic organization, that means substructure, is facilitating the growth of the superstructure where we find religion and everything. Weber just turns Marx upside down and says Protestant ethics, that means, had there not been a change in the ideology of Christianity, capitalism would not have prospered. Christianity has two sects. One is that Orthodox Christianity. The other is that Protestant Christian Christianity. So Protestant ethics believed in one simple premise, that work is worship. Previously, Orthodox Christianity believed in going to the church, praying before the God, using your time in prayers, all these things. But Protestant ethics said that the best worship to God is work. Excellence in work is actually the best worship, best prayer to God. So that means Weber said, since Christianity developed this sect, that is the Protestant ethics, therefore capitalism would prosper in the society. That is that. No, it's just an alternative idea to Karl Marx. And since capitalism grew out of this, capitalism wanted an apparatus, because it is technology based, because it is, that is an industrial society. It wanted capable employees. Therefore, it wanted a merit based administration. So, the merit based administration, how it will develop? So, naturally, it developed an apparatus called bureaucracy, whose principles are rule of law, merit based selection, and universality, impersonality. All these are features of bureaucracy. So that means, that they developed a state where you have more autonomy. In contrast to Max Weber, another type of thinking or alternative paradigm has been given by another Chinese born American philosopher, Friedrichs. I'll tell you about that. Just a little more about Max Weber's philosophy. Max Weber gave us a theory of authority. Max Weber said, power is nothing but influence. The dominant exercises power over the dominated to get the work done. But when this power is legitimate, without any question, we obey that power. That is political power. Means the power with legitimacy is called authority. So political power is expressed in terms of authority. So he told us about three types of authority. One is traditional authority, where the people obey the authority because the idea of authority is rooted in customs and traditions. That is, we consider king as the agent of God. That was traditional authority. What is the next type of authority? Charismatic authority. Means people obey the any person, not even, may not be a ruler, as authority, because the authority has some type of personality which the people adore, like the authority of Mahatma Gandhi. He had decided that he will not own any political power, but till he was alive, the administration was running as per his desire. You may call it as from 1947 August to 1948 January till he died. For 6 months, you can say the administration was not doing which will hurt the sentiment of the father of nation. So this is called charismatic authority, which is gradually routinized. So that is charismatic authority. Then you have legal authority, and this legal authority is called as legal rational authority. That means the authority is backed by law, but it is the product of reason of individuals. Individuals consider it as justified. So this is called rational legal authority. So the expression of rational legal authority is bureaucracy. People accept the power of the bureaucrats. That is why the bureaucrats are powerful. They do not desire to defy the bureaucrat. If you just observe any common man standing before an officer, you will see that the common man is standing before an officer with all humility. Why? Because our mind considers that that chair is more powerful than me. That chair has some sanctity which our mind accepts it. So this is the relationship between state, society, and administration. That is what Max Weber tried to tell us. Since our mind considers that this authority is rational, and also we know that this authority is based on law, so we accept bureaucracy as the rational legal authority. Even if we know any civil servant is committing a mistake, we do not dare to tell him or her before his or her face, because our mind accepts that authority without any questioning. Then comes the what I'll tell you about the uh, idea which Frederick Stell told us. When Fredericks discussed, made research on different cultures, different societies, on administration in different countries, Fredericks concluded that administration of any country is having unique features. Administration of any country has a socio-cultural uh, framework, socio-cultural framework. Therefore, bureaucracy operates differently in Pakistan. It is different in India. It is different in United States or the English bureaucracy. Why is it that the colonial bureaucracy was so exploitative in a colonial land, in a colony? It was not so in its own land. That means same bureaucracy was not that exploitative in Great Britain, in England, but that bureaucracy was very, very exploitative in India, because it was the bureaucrats were having in their mind that we need to control the natives. They are barbarians, we need to control them, we need to rule over them. That was not the mindset when they were administrating in Britain itself. So every administration has a socio-cultural setting. That is what Fredericks told us. So we need to understand the administration of each and every country. So he has given us a large model of agrarian and industrial society, a comparison between agrarian and industrial society. I will not go in detail into that. I will just say how he interpreted administration in third world countries. He said that in all third world countries, these bureaucracy has certain distinct features. What are they? These distinct features. He named these officers as Salah officers. What are their features? The features of bureaucracy in such societies. Societies are transitional societies. Means it is developing, it is industrializing, but the values of an agricultural society or a conservative society also exist. You do not develop that autonomy. The officer do not develop that autonomy, means professional life is different from the personal life. So, even the best of the officers cannot, no, Frederick says, even the best of the officers cannot free themselves from personal attachments, that they cannot be as hard on their own relations as they should be. That is what Frederick is saying. So he says that he names the societies as prismatic society, where the administrators are called Sala officers. And what is their feature? Their feature is hypocrisy. Their feature is, they say something and do something. They, no, they have a tendency of maximizing the budget. They have a tendency of uh, what do you say, bringing incremental policies. They do not have a tendency of resolving any problem. They have very superficial approach to any problem. And you must have read about this thinker in your administrative thinker, Fredericks. If you read Fredericks, you will be able to understand this. There is overlapping. Different departments do the same thing, but there is hardly any convergence in their approach, so that the problem can be solved from its root itself. All public policy is incremental in nature, and the bureaucrats are not free from their paternal instincts. That means they cannot make themselves free from those personal human bondage. So that is reflected in their administration. For example, if a bureaucrat who belongs to the upper caste of the society, take for example Brahmin or Karan, and he does not have empathy for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, Frederick says that this mindset is reflected in implementation of policies by the bureaucrat. The bureaucrat is not that careful or that proactive in implementing policies which are meant for the scheduled castes, particularly the scheduled caste, because the bureaucrat is having a very, very caste bias. He believes in the caste system. So, therefore, even if he has been selected on merit, he carries that paternalistic attitude, and therefore he does not care in implementing perfectly the public policies which are meant for scheduled castes. Now, in a very simpler form, I have told you about Frederick's philosophy, how he relates society, state, and administration, how our social values or social mindset is reflected in state administration, and that makes the state administration less truthful. If we all believe in values, in morality, in higher order values, if we all believe in ethics, then naturally we will have a better society. But that doesn't happen. This is what Frederick says, because administration of any country exists in a particular socio-cultural framework. I'll give you another example. Why is it that in 2005 we had a law by which women had no women had women were given access to ancestral property of a family. Previously, women were not given any right over. When daughters were not given any right over paternal property. First, after many years, in 2000, I mean, say 50 years of independence. After 50 years of independence, the state could think of giving property right to women as daughters. In 2005, women were given property rights over ancestral property. Why it is happening? It is happening because those who are policy makers, they they are situated in a particular socio-cultural framework. Therefore, they cannot have all these type of modern understanding. I hope you understand. So, when you are writing about the relationship between state, society, and public administration, you must write about Karl Marx, Max Weber, and Fredericks. These three are very, you will be able to answer that question in a very good way, because in their writings you find this relationship between state, society, and public administration in a very, very clear way. So now we will come to a stage where we will take note of the changing nature of the state. How the state is changing, how the nature of the state is changing. First thing, I had told you previously that initially we had a police state, the individualistic state, where we considered, this is the first step of your answer, where we considered the state as having only one function, that is maintenance of law and order, that is the police state. The state was having one function, that is maintenance of law and order, and state was considered as an evil institution because it takes away individual liberty. So such type of state was considered as police state. As the police maintains law and order, state was also considered as appropriate to maintain law and order. After that, we find a state where we have more participation of the people. We have a democratic, liberal, democratic state, beginning of 20th century. And then comes the Great Depression period, 1930s. Then comes the welfare economics by John Maynard Keynes. It said that the state must take some responsibility of caring for the people in the hours of crisis. Otherwise, the people will lose their purchasing power, then the economy will crumble down. So, John Maynard Keynes actually is the father of welfare economics, who gave us this idea that state must undertake certain welfare functions. So the democratic setup of the state became wider. People, women were allowed to have political rights after 1920s in many countries, and the state was considered as a welfare state. And this welfare state, this ideology of welfare state, was adopted by all newly independent countries after the Second World War. Dwight Waldo calls this welfare state as administrative state because every part of life is in the hands of the state. Because state is there, if we go back to our place, if I try to recollect my childhood and try to analyze the state at that point of time, I will see that state was taking care of the education, state was taking care of the uh, food security, state was also taking care of housing also, and state was taking care of the healthcare also. So this was the scenario of the state. For every little thing you were supposed to take the permission of the state. It was a regulated state. I mean, state was controlling every aspect of human life. So this is called the administrative state. Then we find a state which believes in development, human development. The state is talking about empowerment. The state is talking about enhancing the capabilities of the people. State is talking about, during this is the developmental stage where we have given scope to the growth of non-governmental organizations. We have given scope to the growth of civil society in India. We have given scope to the growth of um, you know uh, enhancing the skills of our workers. So this is the stage where we have the developmental stage. The state is engaged in both material development as well as human resource development, both. And we expanded many opportunities to people so that they can develop their capability and they can become self sufficient. The promotion of the self help group movement or the microfinance schemes is an essential part of this. But however, in this is the scenario in third world countries, but in the same time, in western countries you find a different state, that is the neoliberal state. So what is this neoliberal state? So in the modern state, remember what are the features of the modern state which we had after the Second World War? Power is shared among all. Government is based on, ଟିକେ ତାପରେ ଟିକେ ଆମେ consolidated କରି ଭାବିଲେ compile କରିକି ଆମକୁ ଜଣା ପଡିବ ଯେ in the modern state, first thing is power is broad based, power is shared among all. uh, People get the right to participate in a government which is legally and constitutionally defined. That means every constitution talked about people's participation in government means government based on consent, ever widening and inclusive representation. It is there in your book in page number 57. You can see that later on. Secular central authority. That means in a modern state, what you find is that the authority is not a religious authority as it was before. The authority is a secular authority. It is not promoting any religion. When I say so, many students ask me, how is it that the government of Odisha is concerned about Jagannath temple? Or for that matter, other state is concerned about Tirupati temple. It is because uh, if the government is in charge of the Jagannath temple, it is not that it is a Hindu temple. Rather, the secular authority is in charge of propagation or promotion of culture of Odisha. So Jagannath temple is a part of culture of Odisha. Therefore, the government is in charge of that. That does not affect the secular nature of the authority. Boundaries of national sovereignty, which was not there. Today, along with initially I told you, state has four elements, but the modern state has a fifth element. That fifth element is international recognition. Though Israel and Palestine fight among themselves for space, but both of them have international recognition as a state having national sovereignty. So today the modern state has a fifth element along with the four elements population, territory, government, and sovereignty. The fifth element is international recognition. Unless and until other countries recognize us, our territory, our boundary, we will not be able to have our external sovereignty. Therefore, somebody which has a nuclear bomb, that country will smash me, but it doesn't happen. Why? Because other countries are there in the world which have accepted the boundary of India, the national boundary of India. So, this modern state believed in the well being of all individuals. This modern state believe in the well being of all individuals. So, this modern state in the later half of 20th century till till 1980s, I can say, for a period of 20 years or 30 years, it continued as a welfare state. But later on, it changed into a neoliberal state. Now, what is this neoliberalism? What is this neoliberal? The present state is a neoliberal state. When you are writing about the changing nature of state, you have to go the traditional theory, then the liberal theory, and the police state, the traditional state where we never had, it was a very, very patriarchal state. The king was considered as the father figure, and the ruler ruled considering them as subservient subjects. That is the traditional state. Then came the liberal democratic state, that is the police state. Then comes the modern state, which is, you will say, the welfare. Modern state converts into a welfare state in the first phase of 20th century is modern state, emergence of modern state. Second phase of 20th century is emergence of welfare states, which is called as the administrative state by Dwight Waldo, the theorist in public administration. Then comes the developmental state. And after this developmental state, we have a state today in 21st century that is called neoliberal state. Now, what is the philosophy of this neoliberal state? What type of philosophy do we have this neoliberal state? The state is, the state is believing in a borderless economy, globalized world, free movement of goods and services, free market. Every individual will prove its worth in the market. The new liberal state considers that the market will determine the price of your ability. You may get more, you may earn more depending on your ability because you have proved yourself as capable, as having higher ability, so you get more salary. So there is no uniformity in salary as it was happening in a welfare state. In a neoliberal state, we allow the private sector to operate with enough freedom. So the private sector equalizes the market. The market is a great equalizer. A boy belonging to a poor family can also earn in crores because the boy is capable of proving his worth in the job market. Any handicraft is can get you more money if it is accepted by the market. So the neoliberalist theories like Robert Nozick, Milton Friedman, they say that market is a great equalizer. It equalizes the poor and the rich. A poor boy, if he has creativity, can draw good paintings and those paintings are sold in the market in high price. Suddenly, that poor boy have riches and have a develops a comfortable living. So, what is more important in such a society is market. And what is the work of the state here? The work of the state is just an enabler. The state will enable you by enhancing your capabilities. So, Amartya Sen, the Nobel laureate, is called as a neoliberalist because Amartya Sen talks about capability approach. But Amartya Sen is very critical of all these subsidies, all these freebies. Amartya Sen says that why do you want to give freebies to the people? You enhance their capability so that they can become self-reliant. So, entitlement, capability, enhancement of capability, that is actually important for neoliberalists. Neoliberalists say that state will have minimal role in the welfare, minimal role in developing the in the society, minimal role in administration. They say that maximum governance and minimum government, that means people will participate in governance. So neoliberal state talks about participatory governance. See, just compile the features. Free market, um, a democratic state, minimal role of the state. State will enhance, develop the skills of the individuals. State will enhance the capabilities of the people. Participation of people in governance, cut, privatization, cut down of government expenditure, and cut down on subsidies. These are all neoliberal features. Greater innovation, more freedom, social justice. However, the neoliberalists say that, you know, protective discrimination is not fair. If you ask any neoliberalist about our reservation policy, they will say that it is bullshit. We should not have. So they are not in favor of protective discrimination. The neoliberal theories like Robert Nozick, they were not in favor of uh, protective discrimination, which we pursue, which we introduce for ensuring social justice. They say this the social justice policies for ensuring social justice adopted by the state, adopted by the welfare state, is unfair. It is injustice for those who are capable. You enhance the capabilities of the people and let them compete in a free market. Why should you protect them by giving them certain privileges? Neoliberal state is against such protective discrimination. It is in favor of social engineering, it is in favor of more freedom, social coordination, but not in favor of social uh, social protection, you can say. Social protection, social justice in the sense of social protection. It considers every citizen as a consumer. It considers every citizen as a consumer, and the consumer will, uh, consumer is the king. So the market will be determined, the forces in the market will be determined according to the likes and dislikes of the consumer. So, what is the work of the state here? The work of the state here is to enhance the capabilities of the people so that they can compete in the market, they can have their diversified livelihood. We have crop diversification. So also neoliberal state talks about diversified livelihood. This diversified livelihood will enable them to exercise their choice. So, in a free market economy where you have performance appraisal and both the existence of public sector and private sector, what you find is that they will prove their worth. They will compete with each other, and that is how uh, the state will be a better state, and people as consumers will get quality products. So I hope you understand now what is a neoliberal state. Now this neoliberal state, during this era, we have new concepts like citizen charter. We have new concepts like, there is a consensus in the world about developmental goals. In 2000, the world arrived at a consensus and identified certain goals as millennial development goals and promised that by 2015 we will reach these goals. In 2015, they again sat and they discussed and they found that though we have not reached the goal, let us sustain whatever development we have achieved. Let us sustain whatever development we have achieved. And that is, you know, we have the sustainable development goals, 17 goals to 69 targets. That means every goal has certain targets. Like we have the target, goal number 3, SDG 3, the target is 70. We will attain maternal mortality rate 70 per 1 lakh live birth. So this is the target, you know. So similarly, we have 269 targets. So the neoliberal state is persuading people to exercise their choice and to become empowered consumers, to exercise their choice as citizens and to become empowered consumers and force the business community to give quality product. Now, e-commerce, if you get a thing, you don't like it, you return it. If they play any game with you, do dilly dally, you again write in the social uh, media, and immediately the company responds to you because you are the consumer and consumer is the king. By his or her expressions, the reputation of the company will be ruined. So I hope I have been able to make you understand liberal perspective, Marxist perspective, and neoliberal perspective, a little bit of the relationship between state, society, and public administration. If you have read those chapters, now please share with me if you have any difficulty. We have some 10-15 minutes. I can clear your doubts. If you have, my advice would be while the state, society, and public administration is a difficult paper. This you have to relate too many things from political science, from sociology, and from public administration, and also from economics. Therefore, while the classes are going on, get some time, find out some time, and read the course material. The course material is a bit complicated, so read the course material. If you are not able to understand anything, please share with me at the end of the class so I can clarify your doubts. Any questions? If there is no questions, then we will proceed further. More or less, I have completed till unit 5. If there is no question, because we have to complete 21 units in 8 days. Today is the second day. So we have completed 5 units. Now we have 16 units and 6 days. So if you do not have any doubt, we will proceed further and discuss about the Gandhian perspective.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes, tell me.
Is there any procedure Marxist has pointed on how to achieve a stateless society?
Marx said that there will be a revolution. A procedure means this is a natural process. The class which is deprived of all well-being in life will ultimately become very very discontented, and there are three processes by which the class in itself will change into class for itself. That means the class which is exploited will gain consciousness and will gather courage to raise their voice and to fight, to launch their struggle against the exploitative state. So, what are the processes? First process is pauperization. The rich will become so greedy that they will appropriate more and more wealth. By that, Marx believes that the society, though there are many classes in the society, all these classes will convert into two classes. That means the rich will become more richer and the poor will become more poorer. So first stage is pauperization. Then the second stage is polarization. That means all these classes convert into two classes, haves and have nots. That is polarization. Third stage is class consciousness. That means gradually the class which is uh, deprived of all facilities will who is deprived of all facilities will raise their voice and raise launch a fight against the state, and they will try to change the government. They will try to uh, you know topple down the government, because that government is not looking after their well-being. So at this stage, Marx says, when they gain that class consciousness, they will enter into the class struggle phase. Is it okay? So
Yes,
class
ma'am.
in itself will convert into class for itself. And class, the concept of class is an economic concept. People having similar relationship with means of production are uh, you know are tuned to form groups. That is how things go on. Suppose you see a government colony. What do you find there? In a particular area, the officials stay. In another particular area, the class 3 employees stay. In another particular area, the class 4 employees stay. So this is what is the categorization that happens. This is Marx says all these are done by the state to create an unequal society, because everybody is contributing labor power. Why this inequality? Everybody has one thing in common, that is labor power. All work are same. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else? No other question. Now, as I think there are many short notes, many long questions in your question paper. I do not know the format of the question, but I think you have short questions, you have long questions, different type of questions. So this Max Weber's views, Frederick's views, or Karl Marx views, all these can come as a short note also. And this liberal perspective, Marxist perspective, and the neoliberal perspective, the relationship between state, society, and public administration, the changing nature of state are expected long questions. So prepare these things for long question, and all those things for short question. I don't think Fredericks will have a long question, but however, it might come also as a long question if the examiner uh, thinks that you have already read Fredericks in administrative thinker. So that might happen. But the questions I told you, these are the expected questions. And the reading material is not giving you questions. That is the thing. So, any other thing that you want to know? Tomorrow we'll discuss about Gandhian perspective. If you go through that, then only you will be able to clarify your doubts. Then only you can create a link between your understanding, my teaching, and your study material. If you do not go through the study material, it is difficult to attach yourself to the study material, link yourself to the study material. Because to teach as per the study material, I need more time, and I have only 8 classes. So I have to complete as far as possible 2 3 units in one class. Okay. Any other question? No question actually. So let me end the class here. Tomorrow we will discuss about Gandhian perspective, which where we can compare Gandhian perspective with liberal perspective, Marxist perspective, and neoliberal perspective. And then we have interface between citizen and administration, and democratic people's struggles. So 6 7 8 unit. Tomorrow I will teach you the unit 6 7 and 8. I think I can complete it. Then we'll think about, because the unit 10 is a little bit important unit, that is social participation, changing norms of social equity, participation, flexibility, and autonomy. Okay, so we will wind up the class here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
All of you be there in the class, otherwise the class is not interesting. That is why I told your coordinator that I won't be taking your class further because there is no students. So all of you be there tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Learning outcome. Yes.